Hello, welcome to Staring into the Abyss. Unfortunately, someone made Matt Brandenburg do a bad thing and he can't be here today, but we still have Vitlam and Mist.
Yep, running the numbers here.
And I am your host, as always, Richard Gerlach, and I'm super excited because today we're going to be talking about I Make People Do Bad Things by Chesya Burke, which is a story that I haven't read from her, but if you like your crime stories to be on the more paranormal side, this one's definitely worth checking out.
Oh yeah. This is and this is the first time I read from her, so this was an interesting introduction to her style.
Yeah, well, her style is kind of she's someone who her voice is very interesting, where she's able to adapt it and change it as needed for the story.
Yeah,
but a lot of her stuff will take place in that kind of era. And Prohibition times, Harlem Renaissance. But she I think she has a nonfiction book coming out this year.
Oh,
but she's a really interesting writer. And someone who is new to the podcast, it'll be fun to cover for one of her stories.
Yeah.
But before we dive into that, I finally got to see the movie I've been wanting to see all last night.
Wait, was it Infinity Pool?
No. I didn't get to talk about Infinity Pool. I thought we talked about that last week. I saw Infinity Pool last. Oh.
Did we? I can't remember.
I think we did.
This is the problem with consuming too many things.
We have short-term memory. I get it. Yeah. Infinity Pool was pretty good. I liked it. I think we talked about it last week, but if we didn't, I'll just say, if you like Cronenberg, you like body horror, and you want to see what a DMT trip is like, Infinity Pool's the movie for you.
Okay.
It is fucking wild and fucked up, and there's a lot of orgies and a lot of gore and a lot of violence.
So a lot of body fluids.
Mia Goth is becoming one of my favorite horror actresses. She is, I don't know, she's someone she's been acting for a while, but I think if I see Mia Goth in a horror movie, I'm getting a ticket and I'm seeing that movie.
I haven't seen her in anything, so I definitely need to check out the latest one. Isn't she really good in Pearl?
She's great in Pearl. She's pretty good in X. Actually, I'd say she's really good in X because she's playing two roles in that movie.
Okay.
In X, she plays the two leads. She plays the porn actress who's trying to become this famous celebrity, and she also plays the old woman killer.
Interesting.
They put prosthetics and stuff.
They didn't show these films here in Iceland, so I haven't had a chance to see them. But I'm hoping they will go on to some kind of streaming service soon.
And Pearl, I think X might have been on HBO Max. I'm not 100% sure. Okay. I'll check though. I'll let you know.
Okay.
And then, Pearl is it's more of a Southern Gothic character study than it is a horror movie. And I think Mia Goth really gets to shine in Pearl as a character study. So I'm excited to see where Maxine goes with all these.
I mean, that's where the infamous smile is, right? I've seen a lot of clips of Mia Goth, in Pearl, where she's smiling like a maniac.
Yes.
Okay.
Mia Goth also plays a psycho in Infinity Pool.
Of course. Gotta use those crazy eyes.
The premise, and she shaved her eyebrows for this movie. There's no eyebrows.
Oh, okay. I mean, even more effective.
But the movie's pretty much these people, Alexander Skarsgård and his wife, go to this kind of Caribbean-style island on a vacation to inspire Alexander Skarsgård for his new novel. They meet another rich vacationing couple. This island is very uncivilized and very poor, so the wealthy stay in these resort compounds with armed security and fences, and all the poor people are outside. And they're not supposed to leave, but they do because they're rich and money
and entitled.
Bend rules. So they get out Alexander Skarsgård's driving home after they're drinking and having fun on the beach. He accidentally runs over somebody in the car because the lights keep on flickering on and off and on and off and on and off. And the island has a rule that if you commit murder, that person's firstborn child has to execute you.
Okay.
Blood for blood. But
Interesting.
if you're rich, you can pay a hefty fee, and they'll make an exact clone of you that has all the memories up until the time you got cloned. And you'll watch that clone get executed.
And this is where it becomes weird. It was
And-
like I was all into this. I was like, "Ooh, revenge!" And then, huh?
and the other rich people on the island, they go out committing crimes to pay to get clones of themselves made to be entertained by watching their clones' deaths.
Yeah. Okay, that's existentialism at its extreme, I guess.
And it's a fucking wild movie. Like,
Yeah, I can imagine. Jesus. Okay.
yeah, there's been like a minute or 2 minutes of footage removed from the movie to make it rated R, because it was NC-17 the first couple times they tried to submit it. But I will say the second half of that movie is absolutely wild, and the gore and the violence is 100% there, and it has such an impact and a force behind it that, like, I really respect it as a movie. But I think Possessor was a better movie, which was Brandon Cronenberg's previous movie. I think Possessor is a much better movie, but Infinity Pool is an experience I don't think I'm ever going to forget.
Oh yeah. So there's a difference. Like this is a better movie, while this one is a more interesting experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the movie I saw last night was The Outwaters, which,
It was a found footage film, right?
yes. Have you seen the trailer for this?
I have not. I have seen a couple of people on Twitter talk about it. Is it like is it Australian film?
No, it's American.
Really? Oh.
Yes.
But
It
it's
was
like it's like a budget film, right?
Yeah, I think they filmed it for like maybe 20 grand, 10 grand. It's a found footage movie, so it's cheap.
Yeah. I mean, that's how they use. That's basically the basis for a found footage movie.
It's like, I got an idea, I don't got money, found footage. Let's go.
I have an iPhone.
But the premise of this one is it's found footage. The people filming, their ideas are going to film a music video. So they're going into the desert to this dried up riverbed.
Okay. Where in the States? Like in Arizona or?
It feels like it's Arizona, but I don't remember them specifying.
Okay.
And so, but it simply goes Arizona or Nevada.
Yeah,
Probably,
I mean, desert.
a bit more sense on.
Yeah, it's like what comes to mind when it comes to deserts in the state is either Nevada, and then Arizona, or Utah.
Yeah, and so there's a dried up riverbed. They're trying to film a music video there, and they started hearing weird sounds happening all around them. Like they're just hearing a weird boom, 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 but nothing's in the area. And one guy finds this hole and puts his boom mic down it and just records a droning sound that's coming from this hole that he found. And then when night falls, the second night in particular, the cameraman sees someone who looks like him and is holding a hatchet. And he's attacked by this person. And after all he says is, "My head is raining." And he's in a daze. And everyone at the campsite gets disturbed and they run around in the darkness screaming. And you don't know what happens to him because it's complete pitch black. and you just hear him praying to God while these women are screaming, and you're hearing like all these horrible sounds happening. And the next morning, he's awake, and there's these worms that are crawling on the ground super fast, screaming.
Ew.
And it's just like you're watching these people descend into something that is pretty much hell on earth. The more and more intense it gets.
So is it like in the same vein as below? No, wait. So above, as below?
It's more fucked up than as above, so below.
Okay. Liking it then? Because I hated that movie.
I wouldn't really compare it to As Above, So Below, because that one is like they're literally in hell.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
This one, they don't try to explain it.
Okay.
This one, it's just weird shit happening. There is a crazy monster that appears at the end of it. Weird shit happens. It alludes to the only answer you get of what's going on is near the end of the movie. Spoiler. Near the end of the movie, he finds a sign that says that this used to be a government testing site.
Okay.
But even so, it's hard to tell because it's being recorded on a camera.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just visions in his head. Like something weird is going on in this area. And it could be my friend who saw it. He said that he feels like they went to hell, and like when they were at nighttime was when they were in hell, and the daytime was when hell was bleeding into earth.
Okay.
I don't know what I feel with the movie when it comes to that. All I do know is if you're a found footage fan,
yeah,
I think this is a must watch. I will say if you're squeamish, there is some gore. There is a good amount of blood in this movie, including a character who's puking blood for a little bit of the movie. And there is a castration scene, but you don't
like full on.
You don't see it full on, but you know what's going on.
Oh, okay.
And then he plays with it after it's been castrated.
Okay. Like how? Does he just wiggle it around, or does he even hit a helicopter?
He rolls it around on the ground.
I'm trying to picture it, and it just comes out so weird. I just see a lump of dough.
It's weird in the movie too.
What the fuck? Okay, was it necessary? Was it just a shock factor thing?
I think it was honestly that's the same character who got the traumatic head injury.
Oh, okay.
And
it could be a consequence of that, I guess.
And he spends a lot of the movie like praying to God. The movie has themes of like rebirth and like trying to like redefine yourself, as well as being trapped inside your faith. Because like as all these horrible things are happening, this dude's constantly like praying to God as like all these horrible things are happening. And there's this one scene where he rips an outer layer of skin off himself to have a fresh layer of skin underneath it.
As one does.
Yeah, so it's like he's shedding his old skin for his new skin. And so there's like themes of rebirth and this idea of redemption that kind of goes through this movie. But like the movie itself keeps things intentionally vague. So it's more just like inferences you can make based on what you've seen in the movie than so much having full-on direct answers.
The only question I only need from this, if I intend to watch this film, will I get motion sick?
Maybe.
Yeah, then that's a no for me.
There is a good one in shaky cam. There's one scene where he's running and the camera's upside down as he's running.
Oh no. Oh no, 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 no.
So I
So
would
yeah,
say,
this is my main gripe with found footage horror. It's like if it's too shaky, then I was like, I can't enjoy this movie because I am about to hurl.
I don't think it was super shaky, but there are definitely a couple scenes where he's running and the camera's upside down while he's running. So you're
Mm,
seeing the world move upside down as he's running past.
okay.
Um, but I will say I don't suffer from motion sickness, so I'm kind of like a bad judge at it,
Yeah.
to be 100% honest. All I would say is if you give it a try and you start to feel nauseous, just know it's going to get worse. So
Mhm.
that's a sign to stop the movie.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Um,
That's good. Good to know.
so that's how I would put it. Is like if you start feeling it, just know it's only going to get worse. So I'd stop there.
Yeah.
But overall, we'll say I did enjoy the movie. It's getting comparisons to Skinamarink, which I've also seen Skinamarink, and I have thoughts about Skinamarink. I think this is a better movie than that one.
Okay.
Um, but I understand why people make the comparisons.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
because things are kind of intentionally vague when it comes to both of them.
I do
And
enjoy Vague,
it's,
especially after last week's discussion about Shyamalan's hatred for vagueness.
I really I like ambiguity, but
Yeah.
I would say like these movies are definitely Skinamarink is super slow, and it's not going to be
That's what people have been saying. Like, if you can go past how slow it is, then you will see how horrible it can be. Like, I'm not saying in a bad way. It's just like there was this one person who said like she didn't like they didn't feel anything differently after they watched it, but then when they came home, they had like the most vivid nightmares ever, and they usually don't get nightmares. And I'm like,
Yeah,
this
I saw Skinamarink twice.
uh,
Um,
didn't affect you?
no,
Nah, okay.
I
That person might not maybe have watched a lot of horror then, or
I
consumed as much horror as we do.
I think it might have been different if I had seen it in a movie theater.
Ah, yeah. Well, but people have also said that they shouldn't watch it at home alone at night.
Yeah, I've done that. The second time I got really stoned and watched it, and it still didn't affect me as the way I thought it would. Um, but like Skinamarink, which I'll just give quick opinions. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's great. I think it's interesting.
Okay.
And I think it's interesting that a movie as strange as Skinamarink got the traction that it got as a movie.
Hmm.
Um,
Do you think it would have like it shouldn't gotten as much traction as, let's say, Smile?
it's a whole different audience than what Smile would get, honestly.
True.
Because like what's weird with Skinamarink, and it's funny how we just got on to a random movie here, but anyway, it's the Rich and Vitlame show, so fuck it. Um,
Mm.
with Skinamarink, what is weird about it is every camera shot is at a really low angle to give you
Mm.
kind of the feeling of what it's like to be a child. So like
Mm.
there's a lot of shots that are just like focused on the carpet.
Mm.
And the two children in the movie, you never see their faces. It's always like their torsos and lower
Mm.
as they kind of walk. And a lot of stuff happens off camera in Skinamarink. So there's a lot of
Ah.
stuff that's heavily implied that you have to make the connections.
Okay. Okay.
Because the premise of Skinamarink is the movie opens and you kind of hear two children talking to each other, and something happens, and you hear the boy say, "Who are you?" And then you hear thuds, and it's supposed to be the boy falling down the stairs.
Mm.
And the insinuation is something or someone pushed him.
Okay.
Then the father takes the boy to the hospital. He didn't have to get stitches. He was okay. The father brought him back home. The brother and sister um, watch TV together and fall asleep. And while they're sleeping, the windows to the house disappear. The door disappears. their father disappears.
Hmm.
And this thing that is alluded to have pushed the brother down the stairs at the beginning is controlling this house. And
Oh, I see.
is like its toy box.
Hmm.
And it wants to play with these children.
Okay.
So throughout the movie, the TV's playing cartoons, and the cartoons are alluding to what the entity is doing.
Hmm.
And so, but you have to make those connections. The movie doesn't tell you. The movie tells you jack shit. Like, it legit tells you fucking nothing. You all have to make the connections yourself. And at the same time, once it's happening, it's always static camera shots. There's no panning camera shots. They're all static. They're always at weird angles, and they're always long takes. And sometimes there's nothing in the fucking frame. It's just a carpet, a table, and a black hallway. And the camera is there for a minute before it cuts to something else.
I see.
And the idea is it's meant to replicate like a childhood nightmare.
Hmm.
I will say the movie has some really fucked up implications. Like when the entity takes over, the first thing it removes from the house is the toilet.
Hmm.
And then the camera cuts to the kids needing to use the bathroom. Well, the toilet's gone. And later you see them take buckets, and they have to push buckets against the wall. And they just say gross. And then it's never mentioned again. But it's just the idea, like, of how this thing's kind of dehumanizing these children.
Hmm.
And then there's one part where, like, one of the boys, the monster goes, "Let's play." And then a knife just appears, and the entity just goes, "Stick it in your eye." And then you just hear the boy scream, and then it shows blood on like a cabinet, like side. But you don't see anything besides that.
Okay.
So like a lot of the stuff happens off camera. A lot of it's very heavily implied. And I think it's just the surrealness of it affected a lot of people who aren't used to seeing these kind of things. Because if you give it to a horror fan, a lot of horror fans are either going to be like, and I've seen both reactions. It's this movie is so fucking weird and experimental, or this movie's fucking boring.
Yeah.
I've never heard any horror fan say in between. And my take on it is it's interesting because I get why people like it and I get why people don't like it. And I'm in this kind of where I'm happy it exists and I'm happy we have this art form. And I'm going to give it one more try to see if it'll finally click with me. But I don't think it's really a movie that kind of clicks with me all that well.
Okay.
But if you have Shudder, if you can access Shudder in Iceland,
Nope.
it's worth checking out if you're able to check it out. But I
Yeah.
wouldn't go rushing to see it.
No. Okay. But no, I don't think we're ever gonna get Shudder.
But real quick, the only other thing I will mention is I watched the new Mark Moran comedy special on HBO, and it's one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. It made me laugh so hard I cried.
Oh, that's good.
So if you want some really dark comedy, check that one out. He turned his girlfriend's COVID death into a bit. And it's respectful.
Oh, okay.
And so fucking dark at the same time. Because it's kind of like him trying to get over his mourning of like
Yeah.
his girlfriend. And there's a running gag of the special of kind of Jews having dark senses of humor, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
And so like he that's like when to me the funniest bit was him coming up with a way to advertise abortion to Christians, which was instead of calling abortion clinics, call them angel factories.
Oh. Ooh.
He has a whole bit with that too.
Okay.
It's a funny special. It's definitely he hits on a few taboos, but it's definitely pretty funny. And besides that, I'm almost out the Deluge. I was hoping to finish it this weekend, where I'm dog sitting, but I left it at my home. So
Aw.
I've just been. But I did read. You might laugh at me for this, May. I did read the Jujutsu Kaisen light novel.
There's a light novel?
Yes, there's a light novel.
Is it a dating sim?
No, it's not. It's Yuji, Gojo, and others are sent into Tokyo to retrieve a cursed object, and they get involved into this like bigger fight as they're trying to go through their thing. And it feels like a contained episode of Jujutsu Kaisen, but it's a book.
Mm.
Like it wasn't great, but it was fun, and it was worth reading just for the line. The line was something like Gojo seems like the type of person who listens to music on YouTube. That was an actual sentence in the book.
What?
Yes.
Who
And
translated that?
I have no idea, but I laughed so hard. It was worth it just for that sentence.
Oh, that's a bad translation.
It's so bad. It's so bad. But I laughed so hard just because I know Japanese and I know what I was probably trying to say. And just it was worded. I was like, oh no, this is not how you translate that at all.
It's really sometimes a wild ride watching anime with subs, and you just like look at this and you're like, why would you translate into that?
Yep. Honestly, a lot of people who are American, or probably the same will happen in Iceland too, but the whole like subs versus dubs debate.
Yeah.
And people are just like, it just sounds so much better to listen to it in Japanese with the subtitles. And I'm like, one, you don't speak Japanese, so you can't tell good voice acting from bad voice acting in Japanese. And two, some of these subtitles are fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Like it like literally there's sometimes where there's one anime, I forget what it was, the subs are so bad, I just watched the English dub because the English dub was making more sense.
I did enjoy watching on YouTube. I think it's still available on YouTube. The abridged series, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged series.
Oh, those are funny.
Those are so funny.
Those are really funny.
They're hilarious. Like it's the only reason where you like they get a pass for doing it wrong because it's so ridiculous.
Have you? Matt's gonna laugh about this whole thing. Did you see what I think it's called, like Ghost Adventures?
There's an abridged series for Ghost Adventures?
No, the original Ghost Adventures English dub.
Wait, are you talking about the anime or the one with Zack, whatever his fuck name
I'm talking
is?
about it's an anime. I think it's called Ghost. I'll do Ghost Anime. Let's get the title real quick.
Oh yeah. I've heard the top. It's wow.
Ghost Stories.
Ghost Stories. They just didn't give a shit.
It's hilarious because they didn't give a shit.
They didn't give a shit at all. They just like, oh, we have the script, we aren't getting paid, so let's just fuck with it.
But you know what's funny? If you watch it in Japanese, it's such a mediocre anime.
It is. It really is.
The shitty English dub that's really funny just makes it so much better.
Oh yeah, it makes it more interesting.
Anyway,
it's like I'm gonna continue this a little bit. I remember when I saw the Digimon movie.
Yo, I saw that in theaters, and I got the Digimon card that came with the movie.
Oh, what
soundtrack that had Lusty Jake on it, and the money went. Yeah, I was all about that movie when I was.
I mean, I love Digimon.
I did too. I liked it more than Pokemon, actually.
I love them equally a lot, but you know the only thing that basically got me hooked on it was, for one, the epic intro.
Yes.
The American intro. The Japanese one is awful.
Yeah, the American intro is where it's at for Digimon.
Yes. And also the characterization and like the and just the whole world behind it was really interesting and heartwarming. Like they had such cute bonds with their Digimons.
They did.
And and when the movie came out, like, they dubbed it and they showed it here. They showed it here in Iceland. And of course, me being super into this, I went to see it. And there's this one scene that when I watched it, it just didn't make any fucking sense. It was that when, I can't remember their names, but one of the guys, he just started crying. And the other guy, he was like, "Why are you crying?" And he's just like, said, "It's just so sad." And he's like, "It's not really that sad. You should stop crying." And then he's like, "Okay." And he just stopped. And I was like, wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. And then I found out that this movie was cut and pasted and edited like crazy from like an OVA from Digimon.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? And I watched the OVA and like in Japanese, and I was like, okay, now all of this makes sense. But when watching the movie, it makes no sense.
And the OVA's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. But it's like, why would you like cut this off and make it into this discombobulated movie?
Oh man, like yeah, I saw that movie in theaters when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I also saw the first Pokemon movie in theaters when I was a kid too.
Me too, and I cried like a baby.
Me too. I remember.
Like, how can you not? They're all crying because Ash sacrificed his life. And you're like, well, how would you not? Pikachu is crying here.
I remember because my dad was a teacher, and we both had a snow day, and the Pokemon movie just came out, so I begged my dad to take me to the movie theater.
Oh.
And I got we got this Mew card, this Mew Pokemon card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was good times. That's
I know, right?
Oh, that was the best time.
I'm honestly probably gonna look up Digimon and gonna watch it today. Yeah. So what else did you consume? Anything else?
That's kind of the main thing for me. I will say one last thing is last week's South Park had the best joke I've seen in a TV show in a very long time.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm not up to date with South Park yet because ever since they moved.
Yeah, they had 2 episodes. I think it's still one of the funnier shows on TV, personally speaking. One of the new episodes, they're making fun of the whole Kanye going full Nazi thing.
Oh, nice.
And Cartman's trying to get everyone to believe that Kyle runs Hollywood because Kyle's Jewish. And he's trying to ruin Kyle's friendship with Token, where they're making TikTok dances together.
Oh my god!
And there's a part at the end of the episode where every South Park episode ends with like created by Matt Stone and Trey Parker, written by Matt Stone and Trey Parker, directed by Matt Stone and Trey Parker. This one, Matt Stone's Jewish, so this one it just went created by Matt Stone, written by Matt Stone, directed by Matt Stone, assist Mr. Stone, Trey Parker.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, that's fucking funny. And then this last week's episode, it was them making fun of Prince Harry with the whole like Prince Harry saying how all he wants is privacy while he's doing this big media circus tour. So that whole aspect.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he kind of has it coming for him to be mocked for this. I respect the fact that he wants to be, he wants to have his life private, but it's a kind of double-edged sword if you're doing it like with the media and everything. Yeah.
So that's what they're like. They're not making fun of the fact he wants his life to be private. They're not making fun of the fact that the monarchy was awful or saying how he should have saved the family. It's more than making fun of the fact how he's going on this media circus about all he wants is privacy, but he's putting his whole life out there for everybody. Yeah. So it's like, do you really want privacy if you're putting your whole life there for everybody?
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, like his whole life has been like that. I recently just listened to the whole thing about Diana, and I was like, man, the monarchy sucks.
Yeah.
Like I hated them before, but after listening about what they did to her, I'm like, fuck you guys.
The monarchy's awful. I'm in no way defending the monarchy. I think they're terrible. Anyone who knows me knows I'm like, fuck all that shit.
Yeah, but it's just awful people.
Yeah, no, totally. But my whole thing is, it's just it's funny because they like legit, they moved to South Park in the episode, and they prance around the town holding signs, "We want our privacy," and they like buy a house and they put all these lights in the house with Big Ben saying, "Respect our privacy."
Like completely missing the mark.
Yeah, and so like that's the funny part of it.
Okay,
but that's really all I did for this week. I had lots of shit going on with work. I will say next week expect a review for The Deluge.
Okay.
And a review for the new Jeff Strand novel, because both those will be done.
All right.
Okay.
I actually finished a lot of books.
What?
Yeah, I just went on an audiobook binge. It's like I didn't want to listen to music while I was at work, and I was like and after I finished How to Sell a Haunted House, I'm like, I'm in the mood to listen to more. And I did. And by the way, How to Sell a Haunted House is awesome.
I'm gonna pick up the hardcover next week, I think.
Yeah, it's, in my opinion, his best work.
Is it better? So okay, I'm in a minority. Mm-hmm. I think his best book is We Sold Our Souls.
I haven't read that one yet. I have it on my Audible though, so I might jump into it soon. Right. But before I read this one, the vampire book was one of my favorites. Despite the fact that the end, like the climax, was kind of like lacking a lot.
Yeah.
But this one was really good, and it deals with grief in a really good way. It's like how these two different people deal with grief, and how they deal with the secrets of the family in a different way, and then how they come to terms with that and basically patch up the relationship. It was really cathartic.
I'll have to check it out. I might pick up a copy.
Yeah, I really liked it. And he always managed to include a scene in which I always because I'm always listening to this on audiobook, I always stop, and then I was like, why would you add this? For me in the vampire book, because I can't bother to say the whole title, it's so long. There was this scene that I was so squeamish. It was the bug scene.
Oh yeah.
And listening to it was excruciating. And there's a scene in this book, and spoiler alert, that one of the puppets drives a needle into the woman's eye.
Oh.
And it's graphic. And I was like, no, that was no. Why would you go there? And it makes perfect sense, because this is a hand puppet. And the face is the best way to go. Yeah. And it was so gruesome. And I was like, why would you add this scene? And there's another scene also that kind of reminded me of Evil Dead. Oh. And it was interesting. I'm not gonna spoil that one. But the aftermath was kind of funny. But yeah, I really enjoyed that book. It was really good. Then after that I wanted to read, because it's still Black History Month. Yeah. And I wanted to read by some Black author, and I did not get any traction when I asked for recommendations on Twitter. So I went to yours post, because you got a whole lot more recommendations. So I was like, okay, this is not helping. And then you asked the same question. I'm like, bitch, what the fuck?
Fucking A.
Yep. And so I was like, okay, they listen to Rich, don't listen to me. And Haley recommended Jackal by Erin Adams.
I almost got Jackal. I got the Between by Tananarive Do, which I'm listening to right now. But I was between that and Jackal. How was Jackal?
I enjoyed it. It was a genre blender, like with Haley's not drowning for gods, no gods for drowning. I meant.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a supernatural crime thriller, basically. I think, in which there's a woman returns back home, like to a rural place, like in the Rust Belt, I think it was, in which at the time there weren't a lot of black people. There was like predominantly a white people town.
Yeah.
And she's there for her friend's wedding, and then suddenly on the wedding night, the friend's biracial daughter goes missing, and then she discovers that it happened at the same time, like it happened on the same day, not on the same day, like on a similar time as one of their classmates disappeared as well, and then was found dead with her chest ripped open and her heart missing.
Ooh.
And then, as she decides to, she goes to search for the missing girl. She does a lot more digging around, like more than the police is doing. And she discovers that this has been happening for like 40 years.
Okay.
And it's always a black woman, a black girl who is kidnapped. And then they discover her body in the woods or somewhere with the chest ripped open and the heart missing.
Dang.
So, and it kind of, and they don't know what it is. So she kind of like goes into investigation mode, even though she's not a cop by any means. She's like a sales manager or something like that. But she she has this responsibility to do it because she was the last person to be seen with the girl before she got missing. So it's her goddaughter. So it's like she feels like it's her responsibility to find out what is happening and to find her alive. And she discovers a lot of things that is happening within this town, and there's a lot of racial thing in this. And I really enjoyed how how the main character, what was the main character? Shit, can't remember her name. Oh well, I'm horrible with character names in books anyway. So anyway, I really liked how the main character deals with anxiety, because she has these kind of panic attacks. Ooh. and how she deals with them, how she copes with them. The methods she used to calm herself down are very much the same like I used. So it was nice to see that rep. And I also really liked the fact that they how she talked about we discover later on in the books her the reason why she just came alone to the wedding. She was supposed to come with her fiance, but they broke it off, and it's discovered that the fiance was an abusive piece of shit. And it's interesting how she explains being as a survivor is that when he was abusing her, she was kind of saying, yeah, we're supposed to fight back because we're black women, but that's not the case. We're supposed to, if we become calm, they can't kind of control us. Or if we try to show any kind of rage, that's how people are going to portray us. Like the angry black woman,
Yeah.
And I thought it was really good how she explained it. And also how there was a difference, with the modern day in the village, in the town, that, there were some other black women who were kind of willing to fight, basically the mothers of the missing girls. they were kind of like being allowed and wanted to find justice for it. But because she lived on the other part of the town, she was considered one of the good ones, you know?
Yeah.
Like the ones that the whites didn't, you know, they tolerated.
Yep.
So I thought it like this divide and how she explained that, it was really good. And I like it shed a good light on how this is occurring even today. But the ending or like the third act, like, kind of fell flat for me. Because for me, if I don't think she really needed this supernatural element. Because I'm not gonna say what it is because it will spoil what it is. But okay. She didn't need it because how they were, you know, going missing and how they were killed and stuff. It was interesting enough, especially because, for example, they didn't have any news people, or there were no news coverage because, you know, the people missing were black girls, and you don't have any news coverages because it's a black girl. Yeah. So it was I felt like she could have gone more strongly with that kind of commentary instead of focusing, especially in the third act, about this supernatural element.
Interesting.
Yeah. For me, this could have been a more interesting crime thriller, in my opinion. Okay. Because I didn't really see the importance or the why this supernatural element was there.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So, but in the end, right up until that, it was great.
If you want another one for Black History Month, I'd recommend The Good House by Tananarive.
I don't want to read it so bad, but it's not available.
The audiobook's on Audible?
No. I checked on both the UK version and the US, at least on my phone. Nope.
I mean,
it's so weird.
That's so weird.
I know, it's so weird.
Amazon right now, The Good House.
Yeah. I might just end up just buying it, even though the credit is super expensive.
It's yeah, I see it right here. Audible audiobook 1 credit.
Yeah, it's so weird. I don't know why.
It's though, like it's fantastic. But
I know. Well, I am listening to Ghost Summer right now, so I am listening to Tananarive do, of course.
She's really good.
She really is. That first story in her collection was so good. It was so impactful. It was the one with the woman moving into Gracetown, and as soon as she started to swim in the lake, she started developing webbed between her toes. Ooh. And she was basically transforming. But it wasn't that kind of got me going. It was the fact that she mentioned in the story, in the story notes, she mentioned I didn't want to focus on mermaids as a monster. I wanted to focus on a sexual predator.
Interesting.
And the way she alluded to that in the story was really good.
She's a very strong writer.
She really is. Yeah, so I'm currently listening to that, and I'm hoping to finish that next week. I also on a whim, because I've never read anything by Josh Malerman. I think Bird Box, watching the movie Bird Box kind of deterred me from this works because I hate that movie. But I listened to Decorum at the Deathbed.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you listened to Bird Box.
Nope. Fuck no. No, I listened to Decorum at the Bird Box because it was short. It's something that I could finish within less than 2 hours. And yeah, it was interesting. Can't say it was amazing, but it was an interesting look on how a sociopath would think.
Yeah. I've always found Josh's work to be interesting. Yeah. Bird Box is a book I loved when I first read it. I didn't like the movie that much. What was your issue with the movie?
Just was so stupid.
I mean, it's a stupid concept.
It is a stupid concept. It's like nothing is. I mean, as much as we talked about it last week about we loving ambiguity, but it has to have some kind of groundwork.
I think the book does a little bit more kind of groundwork than the movie.
Okay, that's good to know, but the movie did not.
No, the movie did not. And the second book does a lot more lifting when it comes to element 2.
Oh, okay. It was, what was it called? Valerie or
Valerie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed both of those. I don't think they're great, but I think they're good page turners.
Yeah, I might take a chance on them later on.
Yeah, it's I'd say they're good page turners. They're not the most amazing books in the world, but like as a page turner,
yeah,
they're quite good.
Okay. And just lastly, season 2 of Clarkson's Farm is on Amazon.
Fuck yes! Oh god. Okay.
Yes.
Fuck yeah, Clarkson's Farm. Let's go.
Yes. It's so good. It's so good. It's like the most good thing ever.
I added to my watch list.
It's so good. It's God.
I love season 1 so much.
I know. It's like the best. It's so freaking good. It's like you learn so much about British farming. And also, like, why would you go through that hellhole? And then you watch him being a complete idiot, and you're like, oh, at least it's not happening to us. It's so nice.
That's true.
And it gets even worse in season 2.
I'm excited to watch this disaster.
Yes, I think we finished episode 5 yesterday, and it's just so good. It's so funny. The poor man, the poor bumbling idiot. But yes, if you listeners haven't watched this already, it's basically if you've been watching Top Gear, you know who this guy is. This is Jeremy Clarkson, the big guy who's just an idiot. I mean, he loves cars. That's his main thing. He loves riding cars and talking about them and everything.
And he's an asshole.
And he's an asshole. He's a complete asshole.
He's a complete asshole. Like that's an important part. He's a fucking dick.
Yes, he is, and that's one of the things I love about Top Gear when they go on these road trips and they're just being assholes to each other. It's just so funny. So he decided to invest in a farm, like a farmland, somewhere in the middle of Britain. I don't know where. He calls it Diddley Squad, which I love. But at the time when he bought it, he had someone else, run it for him. But then that guy couldn't do it anymore. So he just thought, hey, I mean, farming can't be that hard. I'll just do it myself. And the entire season, both season 1 and season 2, are just him failing miserably as a farmer.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's so fun because he has admitted that even though he is failing miserably, he knows that. He loves it so much. This is his passion.
It's a really fun show. Like, the first season, I had a blast.
Mm-hmm. Just especially when he was buying a tractor.
And
it's like the highlight of the season.
Yep, that was great.
It's like he couldn't see himself riding a small ass tractor like all the rest of them, so he just went to Germany, bought a Lamborghini tractor with all the instructions in German. And the kicker is he can't speak a lick of German. And
also the kicker was it was too big for his fences. For his fences.
Yep. And just I feel bad for Caleb, the guy who's helping him, because he's like, I think he's like your age, Rich.
Yeah.
But I think he's like 10 years having to work with him.
I'm only 34. I turned 35 in a couple months.
Yeah, I think he's at the show. I think it was like 30 or 31.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning. So yeah, season 2 is up now, and it's just it's a blessing. It's so funny. It's just I needed a feel good show, especially because I finished watching Vox Machina and they like left it on a cliffhanger, and I screamed.
I legit like the Mark Moran special came out for me at a good pace too, because it's like The Last of Us is my main show that I've been watching, and it's just so fucking miserable.
Yeah.
That like I just needed to laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, we need humor in our lives after like all the depressing shit that we watch and read.
Yes. And just you will definitely get a laugh out of Texas Farm.
Which is also why I'm happy the I Mean People Do Bad Things wasn't as dark as Nightmare Magazine tends to get sometimes.
Yeah, I agree, because I thought due to the title, I was like, well, we're going back to the dark shit again. But it was surprisingly, I can't say uplifting, but it was surprisingly interesting.
It was interesting. It reads fast. Like it's a very fast story to read.
Yes.
And just the concept alone is great. Like I have her collection, Let's Play White. I haven't read it, but I have. Okay. I should probably jump on reading that soon. But she has a short fiction collection called Let's Play White. This story is original to that collection, and it was also published in Nightmare Magazine. But we have our main character, Queenie Sinclair, who is a crime boss in what seems to be Harlem or Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And Harlem. And she is trying to expand her territory when she meets a child who has... Oh, hi, kitty. She meets a child who has a special ability.
Yeah.
Child's name is Shiv. And her ability is she's able to make people do bad things.
Yeah, she just kind of does something to them and that happens.
Yeah, like doesn't she wish it and it becomes reality?
Yeah, I think I mean, it's not explored really because it's like it's because she does like these hand gestures.
Yeah.
So it's not really explained like what kind of ability she's using. Like, is it telekinesis or telepathy? We don't know.
It's something.
Yeah, it's something.
But and at the start, we know that there's tensions between Queenie and the Irish mob.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when Shiv comes into play. And we also meet Queenie's right-hand man, Bumpy.
Yeah, that's an interesting name.
A lot of those like gangster names from the 1920s and 1930s are very funny, actually. Because they're always a nickname, and like is always a funny story of how they got their nickname. But yeah, it was always like weird nicknames. So Bumpy's her right-hand man, and we find out that Shiv, pretty much Queenie starts using Shiv to take people out.
Yeah.
And make their deaths look like accidents.
But it wasn't Queenie's idea. It was Bumpy's idea.
It was Bumpy's idea. Queenie was unsure about it, and Bumpy's like, no, let's fucking do it.
Yeah.
And Queenie's like, all right.
Yeah, but I appreciate the fact, like in the story, that she is like hesitant because she's like, come on, man, it's a child. You can't do it. You can't let a child do this.
But then once she lets the child do this, she realizes how easy it is for her.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, we'll do this some more.
Mm-hmm.
Until eventually we have the Jewish mob who comes in and they have an issue with her. Trying to expand their territory. And they get into a big fight, which I think I'm skipping a few things, but from when we get into a big fight, Shiv, unfortunately, is killed.
Yeah.
While she's trying to do her job on a hit that Queenie gave her.
Yeah.
And it kind of ends with Queenie comes out on top still at the end.
Yeah.
And Queenie kind of has this revelation that, like, with the girl saying, she was saying, I make people do bad things, and Queenie's like, I do too. Mm-hmm. I make people do bad things too. And it's kind of, I consider it horror adjacent. It's definitely not what I was expecting from Nightmare Magazine.
No, yeah, I agree. It doesn't really, how to say, like, it doesn't really smell of horror.
But like I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, it
It
was.
was very well written.
Yeah.
I
And
like how it takes this idea of the sacrifices other people make for each other, and also like the toll that takes on people around, as well as the people who, at first it seems like, Queenie, at first she's hesitant, then she gets caught up in having Shiv do these things, then by the end she's like regretful a little bit, where it's like this kind of got out of hand.
it did. I think it was also kind of like interesting how her progression kind of like goes from being a concerned, madam,
Yes.
because she is really concerned for her, like for the girls who are working for her. She's also really concerned about Ludi, was it Ludi? Ludi, because she's sick, and she was like, nope, she's not working like the other girls. She's off bounds. And then we see this progression of her just going into more and more callousness, and going into more like she's growing more of a thick skin, and she doesn't realize that it's affecting everyone around her.
Yeah, like, but the more the story goes on, the more ruthless she becomes.
Yes.
And
I think it's a good explanation of like working in these kind of occupations that Queenie is in. It's a good example of like how what do you have to do? What do you have to become to do well in these occupations?
Yeah. Oh, totally. And like, It's interesting to see that loss of humanity or loss of like empathy portrayed in a character like Queenie.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely see that when they attend Shiv's funeral.
Oh, yes.
It's because they didn't shed any tear for her.
Nope.
And it kind of mirrored the fact that Shiv didn't do that either during her mother's funeral. You are seeing at this time like their humanity has gone.
And it's also one of those things too where it's like, it's kind of just this repeated idea where it's the more people stay in this, the more harm it ends up causing others.
Yes.
It's just this cycle goes again and again and again.
Yeah, and it's like in the end, like, are you happy being in this? And we kind of get the answer from Queenie. Like, she's like, yeah, because I have money, I have power.
I mean, people do bad things.
Yeah.
People are able to, I can tell people to do whatever they want or whatever I want them to do, and they'll do it.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, it's one of those stories where it's like, I feel if Matt was here, he'd have a lot to like dive into with this as well.
Yeah, most definitely.
I one thing I love about this story is just how every character feels dynamic.
Yeah, they feel real.
Like you can tell each character feels unique. They have a unique way of speaking. They feel like real people, and you can visualize every scene in your head.
Oh yeah, definitely. I like everything was just full blown for me as I was reading it.
And like I wish I jumped on Let's Play White like beforehand, because I remember buying it ages ago, and I'm the type of person where like I buy too many books.
Oh yeah.
And then
don't we all?
It's true. And then I don't get around to them when I should. But I'm actually downloading it right now as we speak. All right, it's on my Kindle.
Nice.
But yeah, this is like it has her poetry. It has some poetry. It has a lot of fiction. So it's all different types of work. So I'm excited to see where this all goes. But I will say one thing. I love the descriptions that we have here too. This is for Queenie's funeral, but it's like the white men who shot Shiv down in the streets 2 weeks later. Queenie buried her in a plot next to her mother. It didn't rain. No one but Queenie and Bumpy mourned for the child. The women who had helped to raise the girl were too fearful by this point, and they had all simply wanted it over. Queenie had given it to them. She believed that they all felt guilty. She did.
Yeah.
Right, so even though like she's not crying, you can tell that she still feels like she was part of this.
Yeah.
And a
But
little
but it also
right?
feels like though, because she's because of her guilt, like she felt like it almost reads like she's compelled to attend the funeral because of it.
Yeah. And even so we get small things here where it's like, and this is a few parts before, but it's like Queenie hated herself a little more each day for what she'd done. Still,
Yeah.
Shiv killed for her.
Yeah.
Right. So and then even here it's like this is a good one too. It's Shiv began to kill wise guys with a frank regard that even scared Queenie. The girl withdrew. It was in her eyes, always an indicator of a child's suffering. Shields were empty, devoid of anything, any emotion, any empathy. Queenie enjoyed the money, the power. The people around her enjoyed the perks of that power. Her errand boys, her cooks, her cleaners, everyone won because of her success. Shiv gained more than most. None of it seemed to make the child happy, and everyone at this point worked to make Shiv happy. They were afraid. When the girl wasn't around, they would whisper about her. When she was around, they benefited. Either way, Shiv didn't care. She wasn't happy.
Yeah. Because the reason why, like her happiness kind of left when her mother died.
Exactly.
And she's like, fuck it, then I'll just do whatever I want.
And like Queenie feels guilty, but at the same time, when she gets the money and she gets the power, she's very happy.
Yeah, yeah.
So she's only guilty temporarily, and the more she does this, the harder it is to make her feel guilt what she's doing. That doesn't really come back to her until after the child dies.
Yes. Because for her, like she even mentioned it herself, like she was a double-edged sword.
Yep.
And even though she like benefited a lot from it, she knew that if Shiv wanted to go by herself, or she decided like I don't want to do this anymore, she'd be fucked no matter what.
Yep. And
so it was interesting, like if Chesya was Chesya, right?
Chesya.
Yeah, Chesya. If Chesya had gone like in that direction, it would have been interesting how that would have played out.
One thing I like is how the title plays out.
Oh yeah, because it means for both characters.
It means for both, but you'd expect it to be the gangster woman and the child to be the more kind of like light of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Child just kind of becomes as ruthless as the woman.
Yeah.
And like they both do bad things.
Yeah.
And like I like how, because it's a title that just draws your eyes to it.
Yeah.
Because when I was looking up Chesya Burke, because she has a few things in Nightmare Magazine. And like, because I was looking up Nightmare Magazine, I was trying to find an author we hadn't discussed yet. Mm-hmm. And I was, why don't we just do Chesya Burke? Because like, she's great. And the only titles they have for Nightmare Magazine are He Who Takes Away the Pain, Please Mama, or I Make People Do Bad Things. So like out of those three, they're all good titles. But most I was like, "Ooh, I Make People Do Bad Things." That sounds right up the alley. Which thankfully wasn't as dark as Nightmare Magazine tends to be sometimes.
Yeah.
I still remember when I was like, "Hey, Vietnam, let's do that Sharp Object story," and it was a giant suicide story.
Yep.
Oh man, but no, for real. Like, I know we say this every podcast if we cover Nightmare Magazine, and if you're a horror fan, like, support Nightmare Magazine. They are doing such good work.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I've ever been disappointed by a story they've published.
No, me neither. Yeah, I agree. They've all been like bang on stories.
They're always interesting. They're always something unique. They're always something different. They're always something.
They're always something that like leaves both like the imagination to the reader, but it also makes you think.
Yeah, and it reminds me of like why, because on sometimes with all the issues that happen with the horror writing community, I often ask myself why I still do some of these because I just get tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
And places like Nightmare Magazine and stories that kind of make people do bad things, authors like Chesya Burke, like this is why I do these things. Like these are the special parts of the horror stuff.
Yeah.
That, like no one can touch that, and it's so good.
I agree, definitely.
I unfortunately Matt couldn't be part of this podcast. He'll be back next weekend.
Yes.
And we'll surprise you with another story. We're going to push our Black History Month into next month due to having our first episode this month be Junji Ito. So we're going to make up for that for next month, and then our next month is going to be Woman in Horror, and I'm trying to finalize some guests for next month as well.
Ooh,
so
exciting!
I'll be announcing everything to the Twitter, and be sure to give this. Be sure to give Staring at the Abyss a follow on Twitter with @IntoStaring, and Vitlame. Where can listeners find you?
They can find me lurking on Twitter @VitlameS.
And you can find me commending people doing bad things on Twitter @Rudy53088. And this is Richard Gerlach saying, keep staring.